Good afternoon, members. This sitting of the town hall meeting is now called to order. I'm going to ask Member Jackson to lead us in a word of prayer at this time.
Heavenly Father, as we gather this evening here in our parliament and throughout the rest of Jamaica virtually, we invite your presence, your guidance, so that at the end of our deliberations, the conclusions that we come to will inure to the benefit of the community of Portmore and Jamaica in general. These mercies we ask in your name. Amen.
Thank you very much, Member Jackson. Are there any apologies for absence? Apologies for absence? Apologies for absence? Members, let me welcome you all to this meeting. I was about to say the sitting of the Joint Select Committee, but in fact, this is what we term as a virtual town hall meeting. You know, I'm sure that if it was not for COVID-19, that we would be out there in the communities in Portmore having direct consultations with the citizens and the general public. Notwithstanding the challenges that we face as a society, we are very committed as representatives of the people to ensure that we have as much as possible the input of the general public in the decision making of this government. Whether it has to do with the matter at hand or just the way in which government operates, that we welcome at all times the participation of the people who elected us to serve them. I want to also make special mention this afternoon of the staff members here at the Houses of Parliament. They themselves are just as committed. They have their own families. They are here with us this afternoon, nevertheless, committed to ensure that the business goes on despite the many challenges that we all face. I want to also make special mention this afternoon of the representatives from the different government agencies who are in attendance as well. They themselves have committed themselves to the process, and I want to say welcome as well to the general public, those persons living within Jamaica and outside of Jamaica who are listening, who are watching us live via some form of streaming device. They are also part of the process, and I want to say welcome to you all, and I do hope that we will have a very fruitful discussion. I want to use this opportunity to encourage members of the committee to allow us to hear from the public rather than have a lot of cross-talking. Of course, we will seek to clarify issues that may be incorrect or misleading, but let us do so in a very respectable manner. Now, this is our second public town hall meeting. Last week we had a very good meeting. We heard some concerns, we heard some suggestions as to, the different views as to how persons envision the whole matter of Portmore becoming a parish. And I want to just use this opportunity to remind persons that the last time that a parish was created in Jamaica was in 1867, where at that time 14 parishes were created. One has to also look into the fact that, or take into consideration the fact that at that time the population, Jamaica's population, was maybe around 1/10 of what it is today, consisted mainly then of free slaves living within the jurisdiction of Jamaica. Now we are somewhere around 3 million Jamaicans living here on this island of ours, and I can safely say that we have some 3 million other Jamaicans living in the diaspora. So we have actually grown significantly over the last couple hundred years. And even though statistics will show that we have been relatively stable in terms of population size, over and around 3 million persons in Jamaica, I believe that we must also look at this whole policy decision of creating a 15 parish relative to the population size. You know, there have been a lot of arguments and discussions out there as relates to what we need to have in place for us to designate an area as a parish. Some persons have questioned the need for us to have a hospital. Other persons speak about improving infrastructure. Other persons speak to, amenities such as a market or a cemetery, you name it. But the truth be told, those issues, while I agree, are very critical infrastructure and support services needed for any society, any area. As it is, the law does not dictate that any such infrastructure or amenities should be in place. However, we are living in a different society from in 1867, when the Act then designated the 14 parishes with the 14 capitals, 1 capital per parish. And so, you know, this discussion that we're having is for us to look at issues affecting Portmore on a whole, and not just about parish status, and see how we can, as a government, address these concerns, irrespective of the fact that, you know, the matter of creating a 15 parish is before us right now as a committee. We are looking at the development of Portmore as what we want to call a model parish based on the demographic of that areas. We have just under 200,000 persons living in Portmore, far more than a number of parishes in Jamaica, yet they are considered as an appendage to the parish of St. Catherine, with some 450,000 people living in there. One has to also consider self-governance and the level of autonomy that parish status brings, as well as the lobbying power of such a designation. There's a lot of argument out there, members, as to why we should not designate Portmore as a parish. You know, but there's also the other question: why not designate Portmore as a parish? You know, those persons with a negative concept that we should not, you know, what harm does it do to us if we designate Portmore as a parish? That is also the flip side of the coin. Does it hurt Portmore? Does it limit the opportunities that the people of Portmore can have access to or get as a result of parish status? You know, so those are some of the questions, members, you know, that we need to ask ourselves and move away from just pure partisan approach. You know, but I believe I have said enough as chairman, and I want us to hear from the citizens of Portmore at this time. Members, I'm going to open the floor. We have a member here. Okay.
Chair, you mentioned about the town hall meeting. Technically, this is actually a joint select committee meeting that has extended participation to the community. So all that follows for a joint select applies in this.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, member. You know, I'm going to just bite my tongue and let us continue with the meeting. I do not want to start the cross-talking myself. So we have Mr. Robinson online, Okino Robinson. Are you there, Mr. Robinson?
Yes, I am here. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Today, I just want to touch on a few things because I watched the last committee town hall meeting, and I was pretty much concerned in terms of the responses that were coming from my member of parliament, Mr. Jackson, on the matter of Portmore becoming a parish, and it made me very concerned. It made me concerned because every time there seems to be a move for development in Jamaica, the opposition says that Jamaica doesn't have the capacity for such development. Point it to note the several infrastructural developments in terms of the road across the corporate area, where now they're completed, and for some reason it's almost like we never went through the teething pains that we went through. Now, Mr. Jackson on more than one occasion has said that there is no benefit or additional benefits to Portmore becoming a parish. But at current, Portmore has to share a health department with St. Catherine, even though we rival St. Catherine in population. Portmore also has to share a police division with several communities that could be considered hotspots. But becoming a parish, Portmore would have to get its own police division because, of course, it could not remain in the St. Catherine South Police Division and stand on its own as a parish. The other thing is that every other parish
Mr. Robinson, Mr. Robinson, can you turn on your camera, please?
Sure.
I want to encourage all participants to turn on your camera when you are speaking, because the PBCJ and the GIS, they are streaming this meeting as well. And it would be ill-mannered for us or for them to be streaming and not having pictures of the speaker on the screen. Continue, Mr. Robinson. Go ahead, Mr. Robinson. Please continue, sir.
Oh, I was muted. Apologies. Now, Portmore would also have its own NWA office, parish office. We now currently share one with St. Catherine, and there has been a lot of talk in terms of road infrastructure, but that would also be an additional benefit with parish status, in addition to the police, its own police division and its own health department. Now, it sounds to me that the question of Portmore becoming a parish is more one of competence as opposed to Portmore not being ready. Is it the case that Portmore isn't ready, or the current leadership of Portmore is not ready to lead a parish of the 21st century? Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Robinson.
Mr. Chair, I think I should respond since the questions were directed to me.
We are going to take a few more questions before we attempt to answer the questions. We have Trisha. Miss Walters is online. She has her hand up. Miss Walters. Miss Walters, are you there? Miss Walters? Okay, we will go to Miss Lee. Jennifer Lee is online. Yes, she did. Is Miss Walters there? I'm not hearing Miss Lee. The question that was asked by Mr. Robinson, Mr. Jackson, Member Jackson, you wanted to respond?
Yeah, Just in short, to say, Mr. Robinson, I just suggest that you listen to the submissions from both the police, health department, and the NWA in regards to what difference the parish would make. So if you just spend some time and inform yourself, you might be able to be a little clearer. That's all.
You know, Mr. Member Robinson, Member Jackson, you recall, I don't know if you were at the meeting when the Ministry of Health made the presentation. Yes, you were at the second meeting. And it was brought to the attention of the committee that the Ministry of Health, through the Southeast Regional Health Authority, had embarked on a program to improve the health service in Portmore. They were looking to, they have started work, as a matter of fact. Yes, so they started, as a matter of fact, on some improvement work on a number of the centers in Portmore. I believe the one in Greater Portmore is being upgraded. It's being upgraded to offer additional services as well. It's become a comprehensive health center. So it would reduce the burden on, say, for example, the Spanish Town Hospital and the Kingston Public Hospital. But what is very encouraging, though, is the pronouncement or the announcement by the Prime Minister last Friday, and I believe, Member Jackson, you were in attendance, when he told the gathering that the hospital is coming to Portmore. Even though it is not a prerequisite for parish status, but it is, and I want to emphasize, it is not a prerequisite for parish status. Nevertheless, the Prime Minister and his government believes that it would be in the best interest of the people of Portmore to bring certain services closer to them.
No, so Chairman, in that regard, I'm very thankful for that emphasis you made. The Prime Minister did announce that the hospital to be built in St. Catherine will be located in Portmore, and the health center being developed, expanded in Greater Portmore is being
as
done.
Well as Waterford.
Right, and in terms of roadways which are being developed, continued development, all these are taking place without us being a parish.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Member Jackson, because at one point I believe you were saying that we should not support parish status because we do not have a hospital, and I
never said so. I never.
Well, let me apologize.
Please don't misrepresent.
Well, let me apologize if you.
It would be best if you ask a question.
I did not. If I made a mistake, maybe it was one of your surrogates.
Mr. Chairman, I take offense to that remark. Persons made their presentation and you're referring to them as my surrogates. That's very offensive.
No. We have online Miss Lewis, Anne-Marie Lewis. Miss Lewis. Members, before Miss Lewis, I would ask members to please leave Member Jackson alone. He's protected by me. Miss Lewis? Is Miss Lewis there? Miss Lewis? Miss Lewis? Go ahead, Member Davis.
Mr. Chairman? Mrs. Lewis here?
Go ahead, Miss Lewis.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and your team. My question is to Mr. Fitz-Jackson, our MP over by Southern St. Catherine. Just want to say that, Mr. Jackson, I don't think I take on kindly to the answer.
Ms. Lewis, can you turn on your camera for us, please? Ms. Lewis?
Yes, sir, Chairman.
Can you turn on your camera for us?
Yes, sir. I am right here, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this is for, as I said earlier, good evening to everyone. Just read Mr. Jackson, our MP for Southern St. Catherine. Mr. Jackson, this is for you. I really don't take on kindly to that answer read that you give to Mr. Okino Robinson, that he must sit and observe. As the person who are a member of this committee, you should be able to can answer us respectively, because when we talk about development for Portmore, we really want solid answer from our leaders who are leading Portmore. It don't make sense leading, and that's the reason why people leaders become negative and keep opposing. Yes, Mr. Chairman, that's what I have to say there.
Miss Lewis. Miss Lewis? Miss Lewis, can you repeat? Could you
Yes,
repeat? Could you repeat for us?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Miss Lewis. The connection went bad. Could you repeat for us, please?
Yes, sir.
The last, maybe repeat your presentation in its entirety, please, and thank you.
What I'm saying, yes, what I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, I am not so pleased. I'm displeased and God did not make. I'm not liking the oppose, just oppose it. We need to come together, man, and it is leading what I'm saying. We need to hear from our leaders that they touch down.
Mrs. Lewis, we're going to get back to you in a minute or two. Allow for your connection to improve.
Yes, sir.
You're not coming through clearly, Mrs. Lewis. Maybe you can type your question or your comment in the chat box, because the connection is very poor. Miss Walters, are you with us now? Trisha Walters?
Yes, I am, sir. Good evening, sir. Chair. How are you?
Afternoon. I'm good.
I am trying to. Yes.
Miss Walters?
Yes, sir. Are you hearing me clearly now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, good evening to all. I would just like to ask a question. It is my understanding that when Portmore becomes the 15th parish, it will be offered greater revenue via property taxes and other revenue streams to facilitate the social infrastructure development currently not being undertaken by the mayor. Chair, could you address if this is true? Will Portmore receive a greater share of financial resources once it becomes a parish?
All right, Ms. Walters, thank you for that question. We're going to answer that question after we take a couple more questions. So hold on for us to answer that question shortly. We have Steve Johnson. Mr. Steve Johnson, are you there? Mr. Steve Johnson? Mr. Johnson?
Hello, good afternoon. Hello?
Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, members of the Joint Select Committee. Good afternoon, representatives from the different communities. I thank you for the privilege of having to address this group. I think, first of all, we have to remember that this is a concerted effort in order to develop the community, to develop Portmore in whichever way possible. If there are amenities that are lacking, I think this is the forum at which we are going to present those concerns from the residents, not necessarily parliamentarians, since at the end of the day, it is the residents who have benefits or lose. So therefore, as we go forward, we can use it as a plan with regards to implementing these things such that when we reach a point, and I don't think we're at the point yet, let me clearly state that. I don't think we're at the point yet where we can become a parish. I think there are a lot of things that even in this conversation that are being promised, that need to be put on paper, that need to be implemented, that need to be done, such that the residents of Portmore can be sold on the idea of being a parish. I don't think it's an issue of persons not wanting to become a parish. It is an issue of not wanting to put the cart before the horse, whereas we need to have these things in place, despite having been a municipality and a community for 18 years. There are still things that are lacking that we would like to see, that moving forward towards the objective of becoming a parish, to successive sustainable governments, that we have a solid project that is followed up in a very practical and structured way that benefits all of us, not just the residents, but Jamaica as on a whole, and whatever it is that the government wishes to do. One of the things that I want to point out as well, as historically, as you have said, we have changed parishes, but under this administration, coming forward from independence, this will be our first effort in establishing a parish. I will see, therefore, as a situation where we have the opportunity to show that we have the maturity to do it in a structured way, such that at the end of it all, if we wish to add another parish, we have a template to work on to do so. But if we do not put these things in place and keep telling people that we're going to promise them these things, when you already know that the community is already lacking in these amenities and persons are actually inconvenienced because of this lack, then therefore rushing to become a parish when they're still not satisfied will either lead to a situation where there is distrust, dissatisfaction, or there's inequality or inequity in terms of what is given to the resident versus the benefit that the government would have. One such example is, as was stated, the revenue. Government would be seeing the revenue, but we've been lobbying for a hospital from God knows when. We appreciate the fact that the Prime Minister has said there's going to be a hospital established, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. You have fire stations, you have police that is definitely needed to be in place before even looking at the proposal. And all I'm simply saying is that I don't think anybody is wholesale against Portmore being a parish. I think people want to see it done in a structured way, in a way that as these developments are made, that we can say we have given you this, we're moving to this, and this is all in an effort to become a parish, and to see it done over a timeline that is stated, and to show the milestones that are reached as we progress onward. All right? Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. Yes, we have two questions before us. Do you want us to try to address those two questions?
Chair, Mr. Chairman, I think it's only really one question, but the submission by the other speakers, I mean, I would like to have an opportunity to respond. May I go ahead, sir? Go ahead. Okay, thank you. Good evening, colleagues and citizens of Portmore. Mr. Johnson, I noticed, I'll start with your comments, given that you're the last person to speak. I noticed you have spoken about promises having been made. I am not clear myself as to what those promises are and who made those promises. We have to be careful we're not putting issues on the table that are not necessarily there. Now, there are 4 issues. Having sat on this committee and having grown up in Portmore, there are 4 things that keep popping up. The need for a cemetery, hospital, market, and better infrastructure. And those are fair points being made, but none of them preclude a parish being designated. None of them do that. And the question I beg, though, is how can we say that the community of Portmore, which has probably the highest ratio of educated and organized people in Jamaica, will not do a better job of self-governance than now where they're an appendage to another parish? I mean, I think it is disrespectful to the people of Portmore to say that they will not do a better job. If for decades Portmore has been operating as such, and they have not gotten the things that they are saying are critical, why not try a different strategy? If you are self-governing, you have authority over how money is spent in a much better way. In addition, you can go out and seek funding. You are an organized bloc. I remember the days of the likes of George Lee fighting for Portmore to become a municipality as the first step towards a parish. And so I'm quite surprised that at this stage, when there are so many people who fought for self-governance in Portmore, we're now saying that it would not help. And, you know, my colleague, MP Jackson said, oh, we're getting a hospital without being a parish. And that's great. The Prime Minister has heard the cries, he has heard the plead for a hospital, and he has responded in kind. But because you have gotten a hospital as not a parish, does that mean you should not be a parish? Or does it show that the more you organize as a bloc is the more that you can get and the more you can bring Portmore to the place that it should be? I just want us to think about that while we're deliberating, Mr. Chairman, because we have to be careful we're not just going against something that could actually be beneficial to a group of people.
Member Miller.
Thank you, Sir Chair. And to add with what my colleague stated a short while ago, I'd like to respond to Mr. Johnson, because from all the experts,
not because I'm protecting you, that mean you must attack others, you know.
From all the experts, Sir Chair, that came to the Joint Select Committee, you know, some of the issues that was raised a short while ago by Mr. Johnson were answered. You know, no one is not saying that we do not need the amenities that were discussed. But as my colleague rightly stated, that we got the competences of the expert that came here and said that, you know, it can be a parish without the amenities, and then the amenities will evolve and will develop. And also in terms of Portmore being its own identity, I think from the views of the citizens of Portmore, that they want Portmore to be the 15th parish. So some of your questions were answered, Sir Johnson, in the same Joint Select Committee, and I would make a recommendation that you try to get the answer or view those clippings, you know, online, and those answers were indeed answered already.
Members, you recall a question from Ms. Walters as it relates to revenue, enhanced revenue with parish status. the truth is that parish status does not, will not reduce the revenue to Portmore. What it does, it gives a parish of Portmore more autonomy, and it provides them with the opportunity to become more creative in improving their revenue flow, and of course better able to manage some aspect of the municipality as it is right now that they have to rely on in St. Catherine. So there's no negative impact as relates to revenue if Portmore should become a parish. In fact, it is being envisioned that greater revenue will flow into the coffers of Portmore. Greater revenue. Go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Respectfully, that last comment you made, I don't believe it's correct. We'll recall at the last sitting of this committee, Mr. Price from the Ministry of Local Government, when asked the question specifically whether there would be any reduction or increase, and he said neither would be the case. Just for the records, and ANSAD is here, and they can verify that. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I just want to, Mr. Chairman, my colleague, member of this committee, Campbell Rodriguez, made reference to my comments that I made. I just want to simply reiterate. The Portmore municipality emerged in 2003 after much initiative by the residents in the mid-1990s. There about 1995, the initiative of the Joint Citizen Association. The effort of the association was to remedy a situation where the affairs of Portmore, they wanted to have local control to ensure that those issues were addressed and not split with the St. Catherine Parish Council. The municipality that was created provided that platform, that authority. And I was there also from the beginning of the Citizens Initiative. And I want to reiterate also, it did not start with the PNP. For the records, the Portmore municipality was not an initiative of the PNP at the time. It was an initiative of the residents of Portmore. What happened is that the political representatives, essentially in Southeast, then represented by Dr. Paul Robertson, and in South, represented by myself, took the initiative of the citizens and gave it legs to bring it into being. It was the people's initiative. We made representation on behalf of the people and moved it forward. And what the people sought is what we gave them. We gave them a local authority that can see to the development of Portmore. Thirdly, Ms. Rodriguez keep on repeating about Portmore being an appendage of the St. Catherine Parish Council. It is not true. The Portmore municipality does all its affairs. It is not an appendage, and to suggest that is a bit unkind. And not only not unkind, it is not a matter of fact. And the Ministry of Local Government, the institution with the authority, can clarify that. So don't take my opinion or my postulations about it to be factual. Refer to the Ministry of Local Government in that regard. Fourthly, about the competence of persons of Portmore for self-government. No one suggested that Portmore residents, the people of Portmore, don't have the competence to govern. No one said so. And anybody that made that claim would be making a misrepresentation, and I dare to say it's just being mischievous. And that has no place in this kind of debate and discussion. What I heard said by the gentleman, Mr. Johnson, just now, is that just as how the residents of Portmore sought in the mid-1990s in an organized, deliberative way across the various communities of Portmore, establish the municipality, if we are to go another step forward, that the residents in a similar kind of way should be engaged and what emerge, whether it's a parish, a republic, or whatever it is, that the consultation and the people being at the center of it, rather than having a tag being pinned onto
members,
them.
Remember, this is for the public, not for a discussion for ourselves. So members, listen. Members,
I have the right to clarify.
Members, you know, I'm going to, whenever you continue for too long, I'm going to interject.
Mr. Chairman.
Just put you guys on notice.
Mr. Chairman, and I will respect not taking so long, but there are two very important points that have to be made. One is, Member Jackson has stated clearly that it started with the citizens of Portmore, and then the political directorate gave it legs to bring it to where it currently is. The question begs to be asked, why is it that it's not being given further legs to go the full gamut to ensure that Portmore is no longer an appendage? And I stand by my use of the word appendage, because according to the Oxford Dictionary, an appendage is a thing that is added or attached to something larger. So it is an appendage to St. Catherine Parish Council, and Portmore and its people deserves self-governance. The Joint Citizens Association of the 90s, I sat in that municipality with yourself, Mr. Chairman, in that first council led by George Lee. And everybody would know George Lee and I are on two opposite sides of the political spectrum. However, he fought for this for the people of Portmore before he went into politics. And now legs are not being given to carry the journey that much further because of politics. Because I must repeat what I said last week. It is a known fact based on straight numbers that if Portmore is removed from the St. Catherine Parish Council, the one majority that the People's National Party now has in that council is lost, and they lose the council. And that's what is pushing this fight against the parish for Portmore. That is what is being pushed. No. Member Jackson, you know better. Let us be fair and allow this group of amazing citizens of Portmore to get a chance to manage their affairs and stop being an appendage. We must allow people to do what is best for themselves as a community.
Thank you very much, Member Campbell Richards. Member Davis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Historically, local government has always been constituted as a parish. When you look at what obtains in Portmore now, I think from the inception there was a great anomaly exists from that time. And if you look at how Portmore is structured as a municipality, how can you have a municipality with a set of councillors have voting rights in Portmore and have voting rights in St. Catherine? Mr. Chairman, I think, as Member Jackson has said, the people weren't guided properly. If they were guided properly, from then, Portmore that was growing, and one other determination for a parish is its population. And so, Mr. Chairman, I don't think it should be whether or not we should consider Portmore the 15th parish. I think Portmore must be the 15th parish if we are to correct what is now taking place. How can you have a representative voting in one municipality and go into the other municipality and still have a vote? There's a conflict there, in my opinion, Mr. Chairman. There's a conflict there. And the way in which it can be fixed, Mr. Jackson, is by declaring Portmore a parish. There's no other way. There's no other way it can be fixed. We cannot have one parish with two municipalities. I have been checking across CARICOM countries, and there's no parish that has 2 mayors. It doesn't happen like that. So let us look at it. If we want to go back to 18 when it was established from 22 to 14 parishes, that has always been the way it is. So Portmore is not enjoying municipality status in its true sense, because the same councillors who votes there go into St. Catherine or into Spanish Town municipality to cast their vote. There's a serious anomaly there. And the mayor can't go, the mayor of Portmore can't go to Spanish Town to cast a vote. So we need to get this thing straight. Portmore needs to be declared the 15th parish of Jamaica.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Jackson, you have already spoken on the matter. Mr. Jackson, you have already spoken on the matter.
We are here because of the politics.
Members.
Yes,
members,
so it must be a
members.
political fix, Mr. Jackson. It can't be anything else.
Members. I see that Miss Lewis is now with us. Miss Lewis? Miss Lewis? Member Jackson, I hope you are not denying a resident of Portmore the opportunity to speak, because the sarcastic comment from you, member, is unacceptable, Member Jackson. It's unacceptable, Member Jackson. Let us allow the residents of Portmore to participate.
The numbers don't scare me.
Member, Miss Lewis, are you there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I was saying from the get-go that I'm very disappointed in our MP, Mr. Jackson, for making such comment to one of our member in Portmore, Mr. Robinson. As a citizen of Portmore, he has a right to ask one of the committee members, which is our member of parliament, the question of what Portmore. So I find it not tasteful, none at all, because as a leader, we need to know that development takes place little by little. And I realize in this opposing unnecessary is not good for us, because the truth is, if we should go back and look on the toll, Mr. Chairman, it imposed on us and we have to live with it up to this day. So there's stages that have to put in place, strategies, for Portmore as it become a parish. Everything cannot done one day, Mr. Chairman. So I know that the committee would have other objectives in place when that it becoming a parish. So maybe you can share one of the objectives, which would appreciate that it become a parish.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Lewis. We have Miss Lee. Jennifer Lee.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jennifer Lee, Chair of the All Hellshire Leadership Council.
Miss Lee, are you still there? Miss Lee?
Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me?
We were not hearing you earlier, but go ahead now, okay. Miss Lee.
I was saying good evening to everyone. I am Jennifer Lee, Chair of the All Hellshire Leadership Council. And I am hoping that when Portmore becomes a 15th parish, Hellshire will not be an appendix to Portmore. But Hellshire, as it is, a diamond in the rough. Well, our expectation is that when Portmore becomes a 15th parish, we in Hellshire will be regarded as an upscale beach resort town, similar to that of Discovery Bay in St. Anne. We are also asking that we get assistance, because Hellshire is renowned for its beautiful beaches and finger-licking foods. We would like us to explore the possibility of an organized and branded community ecosystem, tourism product that will give visitors a multiple authentic experience and will keep them coming back to Helsha for more. We, the people of Helsha, are willing to put our shoulders to the wheel, but we want help in becoming that township and not an appendix to Portmore. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Lee. In fact, when the National Environment and Planning Agency made its presentation, it alluded to the fact that the Helsha area is poised for economic growth, and they spoke specifically to ecotourism and heritage tourism. We are familiar with the beaches of the Helsha area, and I believe that more structure needs to be put in place. I believe that there needs to be more political will in that regard to proper manage the beach area, and also to think outside the box. You know, the local representatives, the local authority needs to generate economic activities, not only on the beach but within the parish, and that is the level of innovation that is needed at that level of local governance. Miss Walters spoke about revenue. We are the people of Portmore, the local authority in Portmore must be innovative and create revenue opportunities for themselves and for the people of the parish. And Miss Lee, you're right on point that we need to ensure not only Helsha but the entire Portmore gets a level of leadership, innovative leadership that is required to take it forward in this modern age. I also want to comment on the term used by Member Cameron Rodriguez, appendage. And Member Jackson, it is not a derogatory term in this instance. It more speaks to autonomy more than being an appendage. And you, I'm sure you're a scholar yourself, Member Jackson, and appreciate the English language more than most, that the definition of an appendage is that you are attached to a larger unit. And the mere fact that councillors that are elected in the municipality of Portmore must attend meetings in Portmore, in Spanish Town, in the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation. So in fact, they are part of two municipal corporations. And I can tell you this, I know this for a fact, unless that's changed, that they cannot be compensated if they do not attend the general meeting in Spanish Town, even though they say that they are part of the municipality of Portmore. They have to sit on committees of St. Catherine, such as the Finance Committee as well.
It was also brought to my attention yesterday, Sir Chair. I stand corrected, but it was brought to my attention that persons that live in Caribbean Estate, you know, only vote for the councillor in Portmore, but cannot vote for the elected mayor of Portmore. And when you look at that, if it's correct, you know, it's flawed in its own entirety and must be addressed and must be corrected.
We'll take at this time Mr. Delroy Dobney. Mr. Dobney, are you there? Mr. Dobney? Mr. Dobney?
Yes, I'm right here.
Well, Mr. Dobney, could you just turn on your camera for us, please? Mr. Dabney? Mr. Dabney?
Right, good, Mike. Okay, good. Thanks for the privilege to turn my cameras on. Great, I'm right here.
Gentlemen, members.
Okay. I'm right here.
Go ahead, Mr. Dabney.
All right, let me applaud the committee for bringing this discussion to the community level. And let me also acknowledge all the persons who are participating at the community level in giving value to the direction of the committee for the parish of Portmore. I have had a meeting with persons within the Joint Council. And what I've articulated and what I'm saying here tonight is that the people of Portmore possess the capacity to move Portmore forward. I am also one of those persons who have been there, and Fitzjackson will talk about it. But we continue as residents to advocate for development of Portmore. But I'm asking a question of the Portmore municipality. What is the vision that they have articulated to the Portmore people to say that the municipality in its current status will give value to the desires of the Portmore people? And I'm also going to ask the committee to lay out on the table clearly the vision that the government has for Portmore. And that's what you call an hypothetical question. But I've not heard from Fitzjackson any vision for his constituency and indeed for the wider Portmore. And I want to give value to the fact that over the last number of years, we have had 10 PMP councillors in Portmore, 1 mayor, and 2 members of parliament up to September 3rd. And not one single one of them, or as a group, was able to articulate a vision for Portmore. What I've seen is that this committee has laid out a vision for Portmore, which is superior to anything that I've heard, because the Prime Minister, hearing the cry for our hospital, coming to Portmore and have given value to that, speaks to the commitment of the government and the Prime Minister in advancing the objectives of the people of Portmore. And I want to make this very clear. I am not speaking to this committee as a political representative. I'm speaking as a passionate member of the Portmore community who is disappointed in where we are, from where we are coming from as a municipality. I can remember when myself and George Lee, although we did not share the same political ideology, myself and George Lee traveled to Canada to look at local government objectives in terms of identifying best practice in local governance. But sad to say, the vision and mission of George Lee has died with him, because the municipality has become a weak, and they cannot even enforce building regulations in Portmore. They're not enforcing garbage management in Portmore. They're doing nothing. And when I look at the length and breadth of Southern St. Catherine, having gone into representational politics in Brayton, Nagohead, all of that, I am begging to see something that Fitzjackson has done in those years that he has served the Portmore community as a member of parliament. I am saying to the current committee, continue to chart a course for the development of Portmore. Continue to place on the table the mission that the committee has for Portmore, because I know you're not just there you're listening to the voice of the people. And I want to say to the committee, continue to do what you're doing, because if the municipality and Fitzjackson, who is a lone PNP member of parliament in Portmore, cannot lay on the table a vision for Portmore, all they're talking about is boundaries and parish status and amenities before the capacity of Portmore people exists. And once we have a local authority that drives development in communities, Portmore will move from strength to strength, and I'm confident that it will happen. All we need is a strong local authority, and we need members of parliament who are going to represent the interests of the land space or the political boundaries within which they represent. I believe we're on a mission for change, and the change must continue. While we listen to those who oppose, let us listen to them and hear their views and allow it to become a part of the overall collective vision of Portmore. Again, I applaud the committee, and I applaud those who oppose, because it gives the committee more work to do in putting on the table that which the people of Portmore require. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dabney. Jeffet Williams. Jeffet Williams.
That's another.
Jeffet Williams.
Yeah, good night.
Go ahead, Mr. Williams. Members, please let us hear from the member, the citizen who is trying to participate in this meeting, Mr. Williams, Jeffet Williams.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members. Good evening, citizens of Portmore. I know that we have spoken a lot about the issues affecting Portmore, and there are many.
Mr. Williams, can you turn on your camera for us, please, sir?
All right. Okay, Mr. Chair. Let me find that camera. Okay, Mr. Chairman. Are we there, Mr. Chairman? Hello?
Hello? Go ahead, Mr. Williams. We are hearing you. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, all. We have spoken a lot about Jeffet Williams, Chairman of the Greater Portmore Joint Council, the CDC, within the Greater Portmore space. We have spoken about the issues of Portmore, and there are far many. And we have emerged through a process. And I believe that the process can work and will work if we all unite around a common goal and a common interest of our own people, the common interest of the Portmore people, and by extension, the Jamaican people. Because if Portmore becomes a parish, it will not just affect Portmore, it will affect the entire country. And as we tend to say, and we have always stand resolute, that Portmore has the greatest brain power within the space of Jamaica and the English-speaking Caribbean. Mr. Chairman, I respectfully agree that I am supportive of Portmore becoming a parish. I also want to add to that while Portmore becoming a parish is very important, it is very important to the government and to the people of Portmore to hear from the government what are the plans that we would have whenever Portmore become a parish, or if before Portmore becomes a parish. What are the plans that we have to fix the many problems that we would have identified? Would have identified infrastructural problem, would have identified waste management situations, we would have identified markets, courthouses, fire stations, would have also looked at cemeteries, we would have looked at the broader space to develop our own social enterprises. We would have looked at our green space. And as it is right now, Portmore is woefully inadequate in having proper green space management in terms of parks and a greater park. I think for the vision of Portmore and the caliber of the people of Portmore, we need to see something like an emancipation type park. We need to also look at in the same parish with the greatest brain power and the greatest mass of people in one space, look at spaces that we can develop into a mini stadium or a national stadium type to enhance the vision of Portmore and its people. We also need to look at, and I will ask the question on behalf of my people, what period of time it will take from the beginning of Portmore becoming a parish to the Portmore fully realizing its status as a parish. What are the first matters we will put on the table? For example, what are incrementally the first things that we would want to fix? And name a list of how we are going to achieve them in a time frame in which we plan to achieve them. When speaking to the people of Greater Portmore, it's a mixed feeling, but I'm not seeing the great majority of the people saying that they don't want a parish. What I do see the people of Greater Portmore, and when I listen to what Portmore is saying, is that we really need to fix the problems of Portmore. We love Portmore. Portmore is a great place. I remember when Portmore was the entertainment capital of the entire country, and people used to say that we're going across the water, it sounds like we're going to foreign or some foreign country, and people used to take this like a vacation type type of approach to coming into Portmore for entertainment and for leisure and going up to Hellshire to have some sea, sand and fish. And we're looking now to say, how can we enhance all that is there in Portmore and incrementally fix the problems that we have identified so that we can meet that target of Portmore becoming a parish. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams, for your contribution. Member Miller, you wanted to say something?
Thank you, sir, Chair. Just to add to what Mr. Williams just stated and what Ms. Lee stated earlier, it is the plan. I can speak for Southeast St. Catherine, the parcel of land in front of the Portmore Mall. Discussion has started already to transform that piece of land in a state-of-the-art recreational center, you know, and that will, with more amenities, something similar to that of Emancipation Park. So that discussion has started. The Prime Minister did mention it in his sectoral debate in Parliament, and discussion will start soon with the citizens of the adjoining areas where that is concerned. Where Ms. Lee stated about tourism, it's indeed a fact that we need to plan accordingly in terms of Portmore. I have had discussion with the Minister of Tourism in terms of Port Henderson Road, popularly known as Back Road, to transform it into a red zone and also ecotourism area, and each strip of the Caribbean. And that discussion has started already, and I'm sure my colleague will be visiting around there often. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Members, let us try and see how many, as much. Respond. Just a minute, you'll get a chance, member. I want to hear more from the citizens. We have a long list of persons.
Chairman,
Mr. Jackson,
in the last round of questions,
Mr. Jackson,
all other members were allowed to respond to questions raised in the last round. I don't see why I should be denied.
You have spoken quite a bit, Mr. Jackson.
No, I respond to questions raised.
Mr. Jackson, I want to hear from the citizens. At this time, I'm going to recognize Mr. Chairman, Mr. Jackson. I am chairing the meeting. I am chairing the meeting, Mr. Jackson, and I identify the person to speak. At this time, I recognize a citizen who is trying to participate in this discussion, Member Jackson.
Mr. Chairman,
you will be allowed to speak at a later date, at a later time this afternoon.
You're attempting to try to muzzle me in this committee meeting.
No, Member Jackson, there's no need for that. It would appear that you're the only one from your side that is interested in Portmore. That's why you're here. We could not use that. Not muzzle you because of that, member, because, you know, we believe in participatory governance.
Mr. Chairman, we have to feel sorry for Member Jackson because he's the only one from the People's National Party in this tonight. Where are the other committee members?
You know,
so we have to protect him.
Member Jackson,
we have to protect him, Mr.
Chairman. Where you're coming
Nobody
from.
else thought it important to come and hear from the people.
Member Campbell, I'm going to allow Member Campbell and Member Jackson. I'm going to allow Mr. Krisha Holmes. He has been waiting for some time now to make his presentation or ask a question. Mr. Holmes, are you still there? Mr. Holmes? Mr. Krisha Holmes?
Hello?
Go ahead, Mr. Holmes.
Good night, Sir Chair. Good night to the committee. Good night to the residents of Portmore joining on Zoom and the other platform. It is a privilege to participate in this discussion as a resident of Portmore for the last 35 years. I must say that I have been listening to the committee having this discussion to transform, to upgrade Portmore to the 15th parish of Jamaica. And I've also asked many questions in terms of why is it that the People's National Party is opposing Portmore becoming a parish, becoming the 15th parish of Jamaica. I have still not heard, as a resident of Portmore, I have still not heard reasons given by the People's National Party why not a parish. I've heard the committee said that Portmore has benefited from the many amenities of that of as a parish. So if it has benefited, why not upgrade it to a parish? I want to also applaud the government of Jamaica through our Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, for acknowledging, for listening to the people of Portmore by granting us the hospital that we've been calling for the longest while. The current municipality, led by the People's National Party, has been over the years ignoring the people of Portmore. And under this administration, we are now going to get what we have been asking for the longest while. Since the 2020 election, I have heard my Member of Parliament, Robert Miller, made representation to utilize the space that is known as the Dust Bowl just in front of his office to transform it into a park. And again, I want to say thanks to this administration for making such a great representation. I have also asked over the years, and I've asked the Mayor, His Worship, Leon Thomas, what has happened to that money that he has received, that the municipality has received to build the climate change park. And I'm still asking, after many years, what has happened to that money? I do not believe that the People's National Party-led municipality can dictate to the people of Portmore why not a parish, and can tell us why not a parish, because you have failed us over the years. And certainly, as a citizen for 35 years, I can say that confidently that the People's National Party has failed. When I look at South St. Catherine, I have not seen any form of improvement over there. South St. Catherine is poised for Airbnb. Elsha can be transformed, right? So we can have tourists coming to Elsha with a floating pier and things like that. But I've not seen the People's National Party leadership in Portmore driving the cause and improving Portmore and capitalizing on the potential that Portmore has. I want to say I stand with the committee to transform and to upgrade Portmore as a parish for the people of Portmore. Thank you.
I thank you very much, Mr. Holmes. We have Mr. Edwards, Markland Edwards at this time. Markland Edwards.
Can you hear me, sir?
Is that JLP meeting tonight? All JLP people
Member Jackson.
Attacking the PNP.
Member Jackson.
This is unacceptable, Mr.
Member Jackson.
Point of order, sir.
Member Jackson, you are out of order, Member Jackson.
Sir, Chair.
Member Jackson.
Everyone come line up
Member
to attack the People's
Jackson.
National
Sir,
Party
Chair, on a point of order.
Address the subject before
Member
us.
Jackson, if it is the opinion of the citizens of Portmore that there's a deficiency in the level of representation from the PNP, I cannot tell him what to say.
With his political platform.
Mr. Jackson,
this is a
Mr. Jackson,
political meeting tonight.
Mr. Jackson, we have to take criticism, you know.
The PNP. Right? That is all you want.
Member Jackson, Member Warmington.
Nothing but a sham.
Members, come on.
Nothing but a
Let
sham.
us conduct ourselves
a sham.
in a manner that is befitting.
Participation.
Member Jackson.
It's a political campaign.
Member Jackson. We're going to at this time. Let me apologize for this outburst to the listening public. You know, I apologize to Member Jackson. He turned on his mic and made some utterance that is very much unbecoming. Members, we are going to. You want to say something, member?
I do, Mr. Chairman, because I'm finding it a little tiresome how we're conducting the proceedings this evening. I really am, and I have to say so. Right? Because at the end of the day, can we just remember that this is a Joint Select Committee meeting and that we have a responsibility to conduct ourselves in a particular manner. and I'm sorry that I have to say that, the issue of Portmore as a parish is undoubtedly a political issue. It can't be anything else but a political issue because it is a decision driven by an elected government. Whether that government was a PNP government or a JLP government, it is a decision taken to put an issue forward by a group of people who have formed government because the people have put them there, and therefore that is a mandate that they carry. What I hope we will engage the people of Portmore in is a discussion as to how that development of Portmore as a parish must proceed. Let us talk about the priority items that we must ensure are in place, and the lesser priority items, let us talk about how we are going to phase the development of Portmore in the future and over what time period we are going to do so. Because rest assured, you do not sit and wait to have a big house and a car and school fees in your pocket before you have a baby any more than there were roads and hospitals and schools set up when 14 parishes were formed in this country. So to say that you can't make this parish status until A, B, C, and D happens doesn't make any sense. What we know is this: one critical thing must be there. It must have a court. That's it. That must be there. Everything else is a function of a development plan. And what we ought to do is to ask the people of Portmore in their groups, in their various civic organizations, churches, etc., to come together. That is where the political leadership should be leading the consultations to determine, along with the expert consultations that we have had, how we make this city, this parish, a new, smart, well-developed, well-planned community. May it please you, Mr.
Thank you very much, Member Golden Campbell, for that contribution. We're going to take Mr. Edwards now. Markland Edwards, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Let me say good evening to Dr. Wheatley, Chair of this committee, members of the committee, stakeholders and residents of Portmore. Pleasant evening to you all, and to Member Jackson. I do hope for the next town hall meeting you'll just line up your ducks so you'll have good backing in the next town hall meeting. But my question for the committee and for those who are listening, because we've been going back and forth about it being a political football, and as it relates to boundaries and all this kind of stuff, hospital, market. Yes, we need all these things, but my question this evening is, are there any legal or legislative precondition for Portmore to become a parish? That's what I want to find out. Are there any legal or legislative preconditions for Portmore to become a parish? And if so, what are they? That's my question this evening.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's a good question coming from Markland. As far as I know, and I stand to be corrected based on the meetings we have had, the only thing that is required is a parish court. The law doesn't require a hospital, it doesn't require a cemetery or anything else. The only thing required, and somebody can correct me, is the parish court.
And I must say that there is a night court already in Portmore, and in Portmore to be specific. I believe that on becoming a parish, the necessary support service must be in place to make it a parish court. I mean, you have the divisional quarters in Portmore already, and of course you will need to have a court, and I do not see that being beyond us to have that if it is a priority.
Well, Mr. Chair, if so be the case, then thank you, Member Campbell. If so be the case, let's get the parish court going and declare Portmore the 15th parish, and we'll work. We'll talk about the hospital and the cemetery and everything else afterwards.
I thank. Thank you very much, Mr. Edwards, for that contribution.
You're most welcome.
Members, we are going to take Mr. Ivan Jones at this time. We finished this last one. Ivan Jones. Okay, members, Mr. Jones is not with us. The time is 7:35 p.m. and we have a curfew of 8 p.m. I believe, members, that we can...
I online.
You're there, Mr. Jones?
Yes, I'm trying to get on. Am I there?
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir. Well, let me first introduce myself. Mr. Ivan Jones, I'm the president of the Passage Fort CDC and also president of the Passage Fort Citizens Association. Now, I've been listening to the conversation about Portmore becoming a tourist destination. Now, my reply to all this is that why don't we try and twin Portmore with Port Royal? Everyone remember that just before the pandemic, we have cruise ship coming into Port Royal. I think it would be a very good idea if we could have those, passengers being bused to Portmore, Back Road, Hellshire, and so forth. We have a lot to offer to tourists in Portmore. We have a whole lot. And if we can get all those tourists that have been coming into Port Royal, into Portmore, I think it will be, a very good idea as an income generating stuff for Portmore. That's one of my suggestions. Another suggestion that I would like to foresee is that when we look at Portmore, we actually have a drain at 80% of our residents and our student and everything go to Kingston. We have been talking about making Portmore a tech hub or so forth. I would like to see some action really go in that direction. Those are my two thoughts for today.
Thank you very much for those contributions. Very sound, thought-provoking suggestions. And I especially the last comment you made about creating a tech hub in Portmore. Just last week, the Prime Minister opened the latest BPO center in Portmore. I believe Member Jackson was in attendance as well, led in support to that initiative. And Portmore is poised to be the first smart parish, the first smart city in this part of the world, in Latin America and the Caribbean. In fact, I heard earlier, I don't know if it was a member or one of the speaker, speaking to the fact that the intellectual capacity resides in Portmore, that will allow it not only to self-govern, but also to create innovative opportunities for the citizens of Portmore, and by extension, Jamaica. And so, members, I believe that Portmore is poised for great things. We have to just ensure that we provide the necessary support to ensure that Portmore fulfill its full potential. And members, irrespective of our political opinion or the political side, we must always ensure that we put the people first. This move by the governing party or the government of Jamaica to establish or create a 15th parish in Portmore, or create Portmore as a 15th parish, is one that we need to ensure provides for the people of Portmore the opportunity for them to grow, to become innovative. You have listened to the cries, the comments, the calls from the citizens of Portmore. as to what they want to see in this new parish. And so members, we are at a point where we will have to adjourn this afternoon's meeting because we are 20 minutes to the hour of 8 p.m. and the curfew time is 8 p.m. and we want to allow the staff, even though they are exempted, to they are exempted, member. They are exempted to reach home safely. We do not. Some may be living some distance from God knows. So we want to, at this time, members, move for an adjournment.
Mr. Chairman, on the motion for adjournment, I was attacked by my opponent in the last general election,
Member Jackson.
Yes, sir.
I take a little advice from me. I know you are senior to me. Let us not go there, Member Jackson. Hold it, man.
Why didn't you stop him when he was making those scurrilous and baseless allegations
that
against
is his opinion. That is the opinion of a citizen member.
We should get over the results of last election.
Member Jackson, members, please. Can I have a motion for us to adjourn? Moved by Member Warmington, seconded by Member Davis. Those in favor? Thank you very much.